All right, I'm here with Dr. Lindsey Elmore. She's a licensed pharmacist and functional medicine clinician. Dr. Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, you're back for round two, and I am really excited because last time we talked about your evolution, leaving, the formal trade of pharmacy, which, by the way, you still do. You still have that doctorate, but it's not something that you're doing full time because you moved away from that into holistic health, basically. And I think you and I would both agree, you just get better results in your practice with what you do. But also one of the fascinating things that I've connected with you over the last few years is a company that you work for called Amare, and just some of the really cool things that you guys are doing in the mental health space, the mental health wellness space, and through supplementation and lifestyle design. And so that's what I really wanted to geek out with you about, and just why you decide, you've worked with some major brands in the past in the holistic health space. People know your name, but you've really, in the last few years, you've merged with Amare and you've really backed them full support. And you guys are doing some wonderful things. So talk to us about just, for people that don't know about Amare, what is it and why did you feel so passionate to join the team?
Amare is the mental wellness company. That is our trademark because we really set out years ago to say we want to do something that hasn't been done before. We want to do something first. And mental wellness was beginning to have a moment, beginning to have people willing to talk about the fact that they're sad sometimes and that they're angry sometimes and that they snap at their children. And people were also starting to piece together that what you eat and what you supplement can also have a big impact on your mood. And I think we all understand that what we eat and what we put into our body impacts our cardiovascular system or our digestion or, even our skin. I think a lot of people can see like, ooh, when I eat these things, my skin gets inflamed. But it's only been in about the past 20 years that we've really even started investigating the role of the microbiome and what are kind of called psychobiotics, these bacteria that they send information back and forth to the brain about your health and well-being, and as a result have an impact on mood, because we're making serotonin in the gut, we're making dopamine in the gut, we're making all kinds of things in the gut. So one of the things I liked about the company is that it was on the cutting edge of research, and they were intentionally crafting products for mental wellness, and started out with some cornerstone products that helped with the population of gut bacteria. It worked on signaling in the immune system, which is basically how the information from our gut bacteria gets to our brain and back and forth. That's one of the ways. And we also started working on things that helped with motivation, focus, our ability to maintain moisture inside of the gut. Everything focused around how do we help people move from kind of like languishing and just kind of getting through the day to flourishing throughout the day. And so I liked the fact that the research was on the cutting edge. I liked the fact that the conversation around mental wellness was getting moving. And recently we have seen an explosion in the amount of people simply willing to discuss the effects of stress on their life and what a toll it has taken on us. People are more willing to talk about burnout. So the cultural conversation was also right. I also loved the story of the founder of the company because he was an extraordinarily skilled salesman, made a ton of money, worked his way from the call center all the way to being one of the most highly compensated people in the company, just a hard-working, down-to-earth guy. And along the way, unfortunately, he got very burned out and he was exhausted, led him to make some really bad decisions that almost led him to losing his family, to, going down what could have been a pathway of utter destruction. And he said, you know what? if there are products out there that can make me feel better, they can make anybody feel better. And through a series of events, he met Dr. Sean Talbot. And Dr. Sean is the chief science officer. And Dr. Sean is extraordinary. He's got a PhD from Rutgers in nutritional biochemistry. And so he like really understands how nutrition causes biochemical changes in our bodies. And he set out to make products that were unlike anything you could get at the grocery store, that were specifically designed for mental wellness. And the product line has expanded to also encompass children's mental wellness, sexual wellness, which is a part of mental wellness. It works on weight loss and, healthy body image, which is also a part of mental wellness. And so we've really branched out beyond that first product offering that was so targeted in like gut brain axis communication and nourishing the gut. Now it's becoming a much more comprehensive brand that really helps to hit on multiple facets of mental wellness. And so I loved HIP and the Dr. Sean story and how these products were made with such intention, how they were not just white labeled supplements on, that any other company could just put a label on. And so I love that piece of it. And then ultimately, it was the people that I got to work around that like helped introduce me and like teach me the background of the company. All the peeps that I was just like, you know what, I can work with these people, because I've worked with tons and tons of brands, tons of account managers, tons of sales reps, tons of people. And sometimes you just meet people that you're like, these really are my people. And so there was that piece of it. And then to call a spade, I mean, I'm an affiliate marketer for a living. And there was a very clear-cut, easy to understand ways that you can earn affiliate commissions. And it was lucrative. And for whatever reason, right time, right place, it ended up being a message that a lot of people wanted to hear and products that really helped a lot of people. And so it strengthened my voice in wanting to talk about Amare, because I genuinely see people around me seeing wonderful benefits from them. And so did I. When I first started using the products, can't say that this will happen for everybody, but it was the way it went for me. My first week using the products, I lost 6 pounds in a week of probably just water and inflammation and just, all of it just felt like it was just opening up and clearing things out. And then really and truly, when I tried Kids Mood Plus, which I call it the Calm Down Now supplement, when I first tried that one, I really, really was sold. And then Mood Plus, which I call the Be Less Awkward in Public supplement, that one, I was sold the moment I tried it. And so it, like I said, it was just a natural evolution. And it certainly is not the only product line that is an excellent product line. It's just one that really resonates with me and my audience online.
Yeah, love everything you just said there. So many good things. I haven't tried. I have Kids Mood Plus for my kids, but I haven't tried the quote unquote adult version. So I have to see what this. I mean, I get along in public, but I would love to just see like if there's a difference in mood or just how I feel more relaxed, or if you're going to do a speaking engagement or jump on a podcast, if there's anything that I just could see like, hey, that will, I just feel more grounded. I think that's a big thing for me, especially in the chaotic life that I live, being a podcaster, entrepreneur, father. There's just so much stuff going on. So if I can down-regulate cortisol and some stress and then be more present, like that is a massive win.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get into later. We'll talk about some of the stories and some of the compelling stories that you've seen and testimonials. One of the things, and so when I met with you about 2 years ago, I was going through my own transformation as a father and, as an entrepreneur, my story well, just not being present, putting work before my family. And I had to like literally stop everything I was doing, tear the ground up, and work and rebuild. I put everything in my entrepreneurial life on hold so that I could rebuild my family. And at the same time, I was talking to you, someone who I really trust and value in the health and wellness space, and you said you should give this stuff Amare a try. And at the time, my kids were, they would, I mean, I just had no, I guess you could say, connection with them. And there was just disruption. I mean, one of my kids would spit on me, he would kick me, and I couldn't believe it, Lindsey, because I've done gut protocols on him. I've done neurofeedback. I did HBOT on him. I read all the parenting books, trying to do all these things, and nothing was seeming to work. Around the same time that I was being super intentional about fixing my family, I started Amare. And I did notice, first of all, none of that happens anymore, just so you know. So, like, we're good. Now, I don't know. I always like to do things holistically regardless. So I can't say, oh, it was only Amare, but I like to think whatever I'm doing, take a holistic approach. Gut, like you said, gut-brain axis. And then, of course, there's the emotional component. How am I showing up as a dad and a father and a leader? Because if you're not doing that, you can't just supplement your way out of a problem. But I will say, I think there were some good benefits just for my own personal life. And a friend of mine, just to your point, also uses Amare. I had no idea. And I had seen her, she posted something on social media about being bloated and all these things. And based on her symptoms, I go, hey, it sounds like you got a parasite. I mean, just based on what I'm hearing. She goes, yeah, I think you're right. And then months later, I come to find out she's posting about how she feels great. She lost weight. All her bloating post-pregnancy was gone, like gone. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And then she tells me, oh, I'm taking this stuff called Amare. I'm like, really? I was like, I've been doing that stuff too with my kids. So it was just really fun. And it's cool to see the results not in my own life, because I don't know. I live in my own little box. So I don't know what results people are getting, but really neat to see, kind of to your point. Yeah, I mean, the benefit could be weight loss. It could be a balance of hormones and things that I would never have even expected. So, really cool. And then,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And then I just, like, to reiterate, you had mentioned fathers and families like the founder. I mean, right here, like, I was facing the same thing, doing all these things, crushing it in the entrepreneur life, but not in my family life, being burnt out on both ends. And so really neat to see that was his moment also to ground himself and reorient with his family. So that's really neat. I didn't know that. Talk to, for people that are, they don't know, I think the flagship product, it's called Happy Juice, which sounds kind of like silly, right? It's just the name. You're like, oh, right. Like, that's going to really make me happy. Come on, Joel, what is this? But that is like the flagship product. And that's what most people talk about. It's a combination of prebiotics, probiotics, and I believe I call them polyphenols or phytobiotics. And it's this synergy of these three things is really what we're seeing make massive change in people's lives. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, and in addition to the prebiotics, the probiotics, the phytobiotics, there's also all the nootropics. So these ingredients that kind of change the way that your brain signals. So the prebiotic, probiotic, phytobiotics are working on the gut-brain axis. And so Mentobiotics is the probiotic, prebiotic, phytobiotic powder, and it contains 3 different bacterial strains that are matched to the prebiotic strains that feed them. So you've got 3 different probiotics, each of which is strain specific. So this strain specificity is very important. So when you're assessing the quality of a probiotic, you always want to ensure that there is the genus, the species, as well as the strain. And so the strain number is going to be a collection of letters and numbers, which tell you specifically of all, for example, the Bifidobacterium longums out there. There's only one R175, and the R175 may do something fundamentally different than the R176. And so these strain-specific bacteria were selected because they help to reduce cortisol exposure. And we saw that in clinical trials as evidenced by increased decreased excretion of cortisol into the urine. So you don't have as much in the body, so you're not putting as much out in the urine. And so we see this decreased cortisol exposure. We see modulation of dopamine and serotonin, because most of the dopamine and serotonin is made in our gut. And so a lot of people get nervous because they're like, oh, I don't need more dopamine. I don't need more serotonin. But remember that these are modulators. They're helping to optimize the production of these neurotransmitters, but they're not going to just like send you full blown into a dangerous space, because they are adaptogenic. They're not going to take your body somewhere it doesn't need to go.
So,
We
Lindsay,
also,
sorry to cut you off. So, like, just for that example with dopamine, because this is something I did want to bring on later when you're talking about that, and I think we're in this dopamine crisis with the fact that phones and social media are depleting. They're depleting our dopamine so much that we have a higher baseline to reach. And so now we are in a dopamine crisis, if you will. And dopamine is that get up and go. It's that motivation to go out and achieve. And we're seeing this crisis right now, the rewiring of our kids' brains. A great book by Jonathan Haidt just got released talking about all these things. And so to your point, if I'm giving my kids mood, but they already have a lot of dopamine, they already have a lot of get up and go. They don't, it's not going to affect them negatively by giving them per se too much more. Now they got more dopamine. Great.
well, I mean, here's the thing too. Kids' mood is not necessarily a dopamine modulator in the way that mentobiotics is. So within kids' mood, we have saffron, which normalizes that serotonin and dopamine. And so it's not that it's helping with the production of dopamine, as in mentobiotics. What it is doing is trying to smooth out all those peaks and valleys that you're talking about. It also supports the healthy cortisol levels. It also is much, much more for mental focus. It helps with our inflammatory responses. It helps with feelings of stress. It helps to, again, just regulate the stress. It also is very good for the immune system and helps to prevent cellular damage. And so it's a different product, but you think about it. I'm cautious always to not say never, and to not say and to not say always, even though I just said it, because if as soon as you say something never happens or it always happens, something is going to go awry. In my personal experience, the risk of supplementation with ingredients like probiotics, yes, it can cause some gastrointestinal upset when you first start it. That's why Amare's products have things like ginger and artichoke leaf in them, why we have digestive enzymes that can help with that adjustment. But it's much more difficult with a supplement that is naturally derived to cause major problems. Now, there are some dangerous supplements out there. It's just probiotics, prebiotics, holy basil, things that we commonly recognize as foods are much less risky than things that we use for traditional medicinal purposes. Things like wormwood is going to be a more assertive supplement. We see drug interactions with things like St. John's wort, which if you don't know this, St. John's wort will absolutely chew through all of the oral contraceptives that have estrogen and progesterone components in them, because it speeds up the metabolism of them. Well-known side effect of having unintended pregnancies when using St. John's wort. And so we have some supplements that are more assertive, but the risk of a probiotic accelerating dopamine so much that you would get into a schizophrenic-like state is going to be exceptionally rare, if ever occurred. The risk of a supplement throwing, the other big concern I get is about serotonin syndrome. And so serotonin syndrome is a exceedingly rare but very dangerous side effect of antidepressant medicines, especially the SSRIs and the SNRIs. But the risk of a supplement pushing that so far up that you are going to experience serotonin syndrome would be exceedingly rare. And so we're working on the production of dopamine and serotonin, yes, but then like the Kids Mood Plus is really there to help even out those emotional peaks and valleys. That's why it's called the Calm Down Now supplement, because when there's a reason that we say flipping out when we are in like a panic state or we have a freak out. The reason that we call it flipping out is because literally your logical self loses touch with your prefrontal cortex and you flip back into the most ancient portion of your brain called the limbic system, where it's just emotion, 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 emotion. So what we're actually trying to do is just flip that switch back by evening out those peaks and valleys.
Love that. Okay, that was great. Thanks for breaking that one down. Just really quick for people that don't know, you can go research Dr. Sean Talbot's work. It's all over PubMed and ResearchGate. And one of the studies that I was able to pull up showed, I mean, you had a 28% increase in lactobacillus and 30% of bifidobacteria, which these are the good bacteria. And we know if we can increase the good bacteria to crowd out the bad bacteria, that's a really good thing. In that study, he also saw a 64% drop in fatigue, 55% drop in depression, a 54% drop in anger, 45% drop in tension. So a lot of good things coming just from, and that I believe was the Mentabiotics, or it might have been actually what we now call Happy Juice. Is that study is what that showed. And the difference between the placebo, there was a dramatic difference. I think it had a p-value of less than 0.05. And as a pharmacist, you would know these p-values way better than I did, or what, maybe you could explain that to the audience. But it showed a significant increase in the things that they were looking for versus in the control group. So if anybody wants to go out and look and say, hey, do Amare's products work? There's plenty of research that they can get pointed to.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, not that p-values are that important in like the grand scheme of understanding things, but basically p-values are how confident are you that if you repeated the exact same experiment, how often would you expect to get the exact same result, where you could say, hey, there is actually something different between group A and group B. And it is generally accepted in research that a 95% assuredness rate is okay. And so a p-value that's less than 0.05 means that you are at least 95% confident that if you did this exact same experiment, you would be able to show a difference between group A and group B, is all that means. And so that's what you're always looking for. And sometimes study designers will do like a 90% instead of 95, and it's always a red flag. It always just means that they couldn't get to 95. So, yeah, that's all that means. And I think it also points to the fact that it's really cool to have the guy who's in charge of creating the products also interested in showing that the products can make a difference. And he also is able to very easily and effectively communicate product information. And so that is a really great combination that helps people to understand the products, use the products effectively, know which products to select. And so, yes, having the research behind us is a great it's even more reasons just to say yes and give the products a try.
Yeah. We were talking about probiotics and how, they're all the rage. I mean, they've been for many years. You see so many on the supplement shelf. You go into Whole Foods or wherever you go. And the truth of the matter is not all probiotics are created equal. And I think numerous studies have shown that most probiotics don't do much. In fact, they get destroyed in the stomach and never make it to the large intestine or the colon, where they can actually create and change the microbiome. So a lot of it's just, but I know some naturopaths say that's true. However, we still see some transitory effect that is positive. Now, there are supplements out there that will reach that large intestine or the colon and will create that. Do you know anything about, in terms of Amare, how the probiotics work with the prebiotics? Like, do we have to, should people be concerned that I'm just taking probiotics and they're not doing anything?
Humans have always taken probiotics, like always. Like humans co-evolved with the bacteria that is on us and in us. We are more bacteria than we are human cells. And so we even are populated with bacteria-like organisms that predate bacteria. They're called archaea. And so like we are like old school kicking it with bacteria. And it's the bacteria that is in the soil, in our foods, on plants, living on us, in us, around us. We have always needed bacteria to communicate about the health of our environment, both internally and externally. The problem is that our soil no longer has bacteria because we have systematically depleted it with herbicides and pesticides, as well as acid rain and just all of the pollution that's in the environment. So we've lost our soil bacteria, which means that our plants have lost their bacteria, which means that when we eat the plants, we are not getting those bacteria. It also means that that the cattle are not getting good bacteria from grass, leading to not as healthy a cow, which arguable what you think that does to the meat. However, given the choice, I'd rather eat meat from a happy, healthy animal than a diseased animal. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. And so we have always had bacteria on us, in us, and around us, and we have always taken it in one way, shape, or form. Now, are there acid labile bacteria that maybe should not be in supplements because they don't survive the stomach? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Are there strategies that you can use to systematically dose your probiotics and prebiotics at times when your stomach is less acidic? Of course. Are there ways that you can inoculate yourself with probiotics that don't include transit through the stomach? Of course. I mean, people put them on their skin. People put them intravaginally. People put them through rectal administration. I mean, there's all.
For you to tell me a happy juice coffee enema is what we're going to be doing.
See, a happy juice enema. I mean, that I've never done it. I don't know that I'd do that. I would not do the Energy Plus. I would probably not want to do that. But mentobiotics, you could convince me that would be a good idea. I have inoculated shampoos with probiotics, especially for people who are experiencing any kind of post-COVID hair loss. A lot of that post-COVID hair loss is because cortisol has poisoned the follicle, the like root of the hair. So inoculate and put probiotics on your scalp to help with your scalp health as well. So there are ways to administer probiotics that have nothing to do with the stomach. And for people who say, well, there's only these transient effects, there are only transient effects of probiotics in all occurrences. Like, your microbiome is changing all day, every day, depending on what you are exposed to. So if I am at a very sterile hospital environment, or a very oddly sterile, but also the most infectious place that you've ever been because of the multi-drug resistant and cleaning resistant bugs that live there. And so like my microbiome is going to change while I'm in that environment, partially because of the exposure to chemicals that I am not typically used to, but also I would hope, since my microbiome is relatively healthy, that it would also kick into action and ramp up my activity of my dendritic cells that are out there sensing and trying to figure out, like I want my macrophages to just like come and start engulfing bad bacteria. And so then I come home and my dog and I share our microbiome. And so that's going to shift it back. If I eat a meal that is packed full of dense phytonutrients, just tons of plentiful, colorful vegetables, that's going to change my microbiome. So too is eating like a cinnamon bun. Like your microbiome is changing all day, every day. So the people that say there's only transient effects, the answer is yes. That's why it is important for us to constantly build and diversify our microbiome. And listen, I am not just here to bang one drum. I'm not saying that you only build your microbiome by using Amare's products. No, like you can eat probiotic foods, fermented foods. You can eat prebiotic foods that contain these indigestible fibers that are so good for us. And then, you can also eat phytonutrients or phytobiotics that are going to help to feed all of those good probiotics and prebiotics that you have eaten in your food, that you've supplemented with your supplements, that you have obtained by going outside and digging in the dirt or having a compost pile or, organic gardening, by having a dog or a cat. Like you're diversifying your microbiome all of the time. And yes, there are bacteria that we have in us and on us forever, but it's not the same bacteria. Bacteria have very short lifespans. And so you're constantly building and breaking down and building and breaking down the microbiome.
Okay, very cool. One of the things you mentioned earlier was just the fact that it dampens cortisol significantly. And that got me thinking, because I know several people, including yourself and others, who have gotten great results other than just their tummy feeling better, other than the fact their mood goes up and they just feel better in their mental health. But I've also seen weight loss. I've seen it help weight loss, and I've seen it help with hormone balance. Is that what we're thinking? Is because it's dampening cortisol, and that's a big stressor for all these things, hormone balance and weight loss? Or do you think there's something else at play that we're seeing as well, that it's just because of the gut microbiome? I mean, I don't know.
I think it comes back to the classic understanding of the pyramid of hormones in functional medicine. And so when you think about sexual health and hormonal balance, I think most people think of progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone, right? But that's the tip of the iceberg. Like, when testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone are off, up under that is a thyroid problem of some variety, which there's your weight gain and weight loss and just metabolism, the lack of get up and go, that lethargy, that sluggishness all throughout the day. But then up under that is an insulin and a cortisol problem. Because if you have high cortisol, you're going to have a negative impact on insulin, which is the origin point of cardiometabolic disease. It's not cholesterol, y'all. It's cortisol and insulin altering the way that the thyroid hormone is able to metabolize and for us to work through cholesterol, which leads to all of your sex steroids. Their origin point is cholesterol. You must have cholesterol in order to make pregnenolone, in order to make progesterone, in order to make estrogen, and then in order to make testosterone. And yes, you do have to go through estrogen to get to testosterone. And so, guys out there that really focus solely on testosterone could probably do better by going upstream a little bit further and trying more of, some pregnenolone kind of supplements, and then letting the body chemistry kind of take it from there. So we have cortisol and insulin is the bigger part of the problem. And so if you can get a handle on the cortisol problem, that's going to work with the inflammatory problem, which is causing the insulin to get off. It's what's inflammation is what causes cholesterol to become dangerous. Cholesterol on its own is not super dangerous, in my opinion. And it's a story for another day.
Yeah, you and I talked about that on the first episode, and I cut up a reel last time on that. We were talking about statins and cholesterol, and that reel went viral on many channels. So yeah, if anybody wants to go back and see our first episode, we went into great length about the statin scam out there. And
yes, absolutely.
And I love
so
that.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying, so that's kind of the basis of it, is like when we can work on the base of the pyramid, the rest of it gets better, right? And so if we can work on the cortisol, that's going to help with everything that follows upstream.
Yeah, I love what you said about pregnenolone, because it just reminded me what one of my naturopaths taught me. He called it the pregnenolone steal. And most of us have been taught, not formally, but just from the media and everybody else, testosterone, estrogen, like these are the big hormones. But there's a pyramid, and I was looking for the chart, I can't find it, but showing like at the top of the pyramid is there's pregnenolone, and then you have DHEA. And so most of us are fixing the end stream of these hormones cascade, but we're not working upstream where it all starts. And that's what you're talking about. You're getting like to the root cause. So that makes really good sense. I never thought about that for guys as well. I mean, man, that's massive.
Well, and the pregnenolone steal is real, and it really it's like a self-perpetuating like cycle of doom in a way, because you have pregnenolone, but it has been poisoned by cortisol for so long that instead of getting converted into progesterone, it just gets directly shunted to make more cortisol, make more cortisol, make more cortisol. And so it is not a great place to be, because it's a cycle, and it's a very difficult cycle to get out of.
Yeah, really cool. I was also thinking for weight loss, because you mentioned insulin resistance, and we know that these glucose spikes and these excursions, and I think there's some pretty good research showing that prebiotics can really help blunt insulin, and so can at least stabilize it. And I know there's obviously lots of prebiotics in Happy Juice, so that'd be just another thing I would think that probably helps with weight loss as well, right?
Well, and then fiber is also so good at like blunting the insulin spikes after meals. And so fiber is another great, great reason to be using these prebiotics, is because they are fibers. They're indigestible plant fibers that we can't eat, but that the bacteria in our gut can. And so, they are there specifically to feed this bacteria. And going back to the point of, there's only transient effects. Yes, and that just means it comes down to, what are you doing each day? Are you building or destroying your microbiome along the way?
Yeah, and by the way, for my point on the transitory effects, one of my naturopathic teachers, he's a big believer in probiotics, and he was the one who told me, listen, they say that there's just transitory effects. He includes it in all his protocols because he sees it work, and I could care less. He's getting results. This guy has seen over 250,000 labs, and he still prescribes it. So he does see the results, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, because there's always that argument of, well, it doesn't really do anything because it's just transitory. But we're still seeing positive effects and at least anecdotally. And if people are getting results, I don't care what they say. As long as they're getting results, then that's all that matters to me.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Well, and And medications only have a transient effect. There's a reason that you take them once, twice, three, sometimes four, or even six times a day. Like, medications only have a transient effect. Food only has a transient effect. Yes, of course, our body is forever breaking itself down and renewing itself. So, of course, there's very few things, even surgery. Like, you can have permanent, like, damage from surgery, but the way that that damage presents itself is changing on a regular basis. There are going to be some days where there's more pain, more tenderness, less tenderness, all of the things, but it comes down to what what are you willing to do each and every day that's going to be good for your health or going to be detrimental to your health?
Yeah, very cool. So some of my top products that I use in our family is the Happy Juice, the Mentibiotics, the Kids Mood Plus. I stack that every morning for the kids. That's like they have that, their Happy Juice and the Kids Mood. And then at night, I started incorporating a newer product. It's not super new, but it's Kids Calm. And Kids Calm, if you look at the ingredients, it doesn't seem anything radical per se, right? It's got vitamin C, D3, some vitamin B6, B12, zinc, folate, something that people might find in a multivitamin, right? And then you've got the Sleep Propriety Blend. You've got Mizanol, which reminds me of maize, which is like, in Latin, corn. So it's corn grass. And then you've got some 5-hydroxytryptophan, which that's a very popular 5-HTTP, very popular for the sleep world. But could you talk about that, what you're seeing or just from others, and why is this formula just so impactful for the kiddos? Maybe a lot of us, including myself, I don't know really what corn grass does. I'm very familiar with 5-HTTP, not in the, it from the pharmacy side and could explain it better what it does as a signaling module. I'm not sure, but I know it's in a lot of sleep formulas. So yeah, if anybody's listening, what makes Kids Calm so unique?
Well, I think the biggest thing that makes Kids Calm unique is that it doesn't contain melatonin. And so melatonin is one of those supplements that the melatonin marketplace has gone psychotic over the past few years. I mean, you used to see doses of melatonin of like 1 milligram, maybe 2. And now you can find doses of melatonin of 5, 10, 25, even 50 milligrams. Like, it's just these huge doses of melatonin. And there is some evidence that when you exogenously dose melatonin and take it in a supplement form, you suppress your body's ability to make its own melatonin. And there is some evidence that this may be even more pronounced in children. So I think that's the biggest thing. And the corn grass that's in there, the Mizanol, is a melatonin-free way to help your body make more melatonin. So there's two different pathways that this Mizanol can go down, and it can go towards the production of melatonin, and it also supports the conversion of serotonin to melatonin. And so serotonin, there is a precursor, the 5-HTP, and that 5-HTP supports the body's production of serotonin. And so now we've got an ingredient that helps you to make some more serotonin and an ingredient that helps you convert that serotonin into melatonin. And it has a chemical structure, the Mizanol has a chemical structure that's very similar to that of melatonin. So there is, in theory, some possibility that it may bind the melatonin receptor directly. So that's where you're going to get that really deep sleep blend that's there. And so, Kids Calm is going to help to produce some of the serotonin by supplementing with the 5-HTP, and then the Mizanol is going to help to convert that into melatonin. And so that's the biggest thing. And then, of course, you've got your vitamin D3, which helps with relaxation. Vitamin D also supports GABA production, and GABA is your primary relaxatory neurotransmitter. And then your B vitamins are just so good for helping with calm and restful sleep. And so it's also doesn't have, it doesn't have any gelatin in there. It doesn't have any artificial flavors, colors. It's an easy to use gummy with no caffeine, obviously, because it's a calming down supplement. It's sugar-free, non-GMO, gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free. It's got all the talking points that you would want to feel good about giving something to your kid. And honestly, adults love it too. It's a very similar product
I
to
try
Sleep
not to eat my
Plus.
kids' gummies. I try,
It,
I try not to eat them.
it's
Yeah,
it's
they're good.
difficult. It's very hard not to. I promise you, I know all about it.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was looking at the ingredients just right now, it reminded me. I had Dr. Kirk Parsley on the show. He's world famous Navy SEAL doctor who has Dr. Kirk Parsley's sleep remedy or sleep used to be called his sleep cocktail, and he has a lot of similar ingredients in terms of the vitamin profile because of what you said. They all act as like precursors to kind of prepare the body for sleep, and so just really cool. You're seeing some of those things in there as well. What these are the products that I have in my home and that I see, working and having an effect. What other products do you see? People don't know about Amare. Like we just geeked out for an hour almost talking about Happy Juice. But what are some other things that you like or that you use or that maybe you would want to make other people aware of that's doing a lot?
From Amare specifically, the Ignite product that's for sexual wellness, I think is an extraordinary product. For anybody who has minor aches and pains, Relief Plus is a fantastic supplement, especially if you struggle to sleep at night because of aches and pains. And I love the fiber. I love all flavors of the Happy Juice. It comes in grape, mango, and watermelon. I love all three of those. Um, we talked kids calm, we talked kids mood, we talked ignite. Oh, and then just basics. The multiple vitamin, Vita GBX, I really like. The omega-3 fatty acids are some of the best that I've ever used. I also, just from other companies that I really love, Organics has probably the best magnesium supplement. So if you're taking like the Kids Calm or the Sleep Plus and you just need a little bit more to help you calm down at night, Organics has Mag 7, which has 7 different magnesium salts in it. So you're getting cardiovascular support, sleep support, gut support. It's a really, really great supplement. Econogenics, if you are wanting to go to the root cause of inflammation, or if you think that you have perhaps been exposed to some glyphosate or some other herbicides, pesticides, they have a citrus pectin product, which works on galectin 3, which is arguably the root cause of inflammation. If you don't have this upregulation in galectin 3, you won't have inflammation. And so the citrus pectin works on that system, and then they also have a glypho detox supplement specifically to help for people who think that they've been exposed to herbicides and pesticides, and I really like that. And then, I mean, I could go on and on. The parasite cleanses from Cellcore I really like. Full Script has all the homeopathy that I really like. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's all about just it's all about exploring and finding what you think really makes you feel absolutely your best. And then last but not least, as far as going back to Amare, if you're worried about weight gain, GBX Fit is my go-to product. If you are looking for a way to kind of clean your gut out, the 3-day reboot is a great thing to do. And then if you are wanting to generate more collagen, your microbiome can actually generate collagen. And so you have the Dermabiotics products. One is an internal product, one's an external product. And so you can build collagen from the outside in and the inside out. So that's a quick rundown of some of my absolute favorite products.
I love that. Briefly, tell me about Ignite. I have no idea. I mean, when I think of Amare, I always think of like gut health, and mental health. But I never think of, oh, I'm going to go to Amare for sexual health. So I'm curious, like, what is in the Ignite product that makes it that people are getting good results?
Okay, so there's two different versions. There's a his and a hers. For him, it has cordyceps mushrooms. And that is an adaptogen that's been used for stamina, been used for vitality, and it helps to improve like overall performance. There's rhodiola, which is probably my favorite of all the traditional Ayurvedic adaptogenic herbs. And this one is for desire. And then Tongkat Ali helps with testosterone as well as sexual vitality. And if you want to remember Tongkat Ali, it's like colloquial name is the long jack. And so that's why it's included in the Ignite for him. And then in the Ignite for women, there is Shatavari, which is the queen of all the Ayurvedic herbs. We think of ashwagandha as the king of all the Ayurvedic herbs, but Shatavari is really it's there for fertility, it's there for vitality, but it's also there for getting into the mood and into like the mindset of wanting to have sexual activity. It also has wild green oats, which helps to support blood flow. And I believe the his also has wild green oats in there as well. But I think maybe I'm wrong. But there is wild green oats in the women's, which helps with blood flow and sexual desire. And then there's fenugreek, which is one of the most classic herbs for female sexuality. It's a breast milk modulator for anybody who is breastfeeding and maybe wants to assess whether it increases or decreases their lactation. So when you think about it, to say it in a more PG/R rated version, I call the men's the longer, harder, stronger. I call the women's the wetter, more interested, and more climactic. And so if that is something that, you think could help your relationship, then go for it. And a ton of women who are postmenopausal also use the men's version because they also need support for their testosterone levels.
Wow. Okay. We might have to bring you back on just for a whole post-menopause one because I have a lot of clients, like I work with a lot of the dads and fathers, in their 40s, late 50s, and their wives are going through that. And I have some solutions, but I don't have like a concrete one. So it'd be great to give them some solutions. And then Tongat Ali, John Gray, famous author from Mars are from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I know that's one of his favorite supplements. And last time I had him on the podcast, I think he was telling me how once a month he likes to go for like 10 hours or something. So, anyways, Tongat Ali, that's probably a good one. Cordyceps, as you mentioned, great for blood flow, oxygenation. So that's cool. I want to wrap things up here in a little bit, but any exciting projects that you're working on that in the future that's upcoming that you're excited about, or even some new things that we can expect from Amare down the pipeline?
Well, we are going to, and I know this episode might not come out in time to catch it, but we are teasing a new product tomorrow, and then we will have some products coming out in our convention that is happening in July. And then for me personally, I am working on a summit that is going to be Detox Done Differently, and that summit will be launching October the 21st of this year.
Wow, cool. I can't wait for that. I'm sure there's going to have a lot of heavy hitters coming on for that one. Very cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be way fun.
Yeah, can't wait. Well, Dr. Lindsey Elmore, thanks for coming back for the second round. And yeah, we're going to have you back on for more because this was good.
Thanks so much, Joel. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.